Yes, indeed. It is called Lothric, where the transitory lands of the Lords of Cinder converge. In venturing north, the pilgrims discover the truth of the old words. The fire fades, and the lords go without thrones. When the link of fire is threatened, the bell tolls, unearthing the old lords of Cinder from their graves. Aldrich, Saint of the Deep. Farron's undead legion, the Abyss Watchers. And the reclusive lord of the profaned capital. Yon the Giant. Only in truth, the lords will abandon their thrones. And the unkindled will rise. Nameless, accursed undead, unfit even to be cinder. And so it is that ash seeketh embers.
Hello, and welcome back to Dark Souls 3. So, this is going to be part 1 of our piercing sword run, as you can see. And I was not, I don't think ready for this run, because something about this is the only starting class with a piercing sword also has this. And, as I've mentioned in a lot of my Dark Souls 1 runs, not all of them have been uploaded yet, but something you'll see me in the future mention them is I don't parry in Dark Souls 3. So, this is going to be very interesting. And probably going to involve a lot of deaths that will not happen in any future runs. And I'm sorry if this is loud. In my previous Dark Souls 3 run, the opening cutscene was extremely quiet. And for the life of me, I could not figure out why it was so quiet, because I didn't change the audio settings at all, but the audio sounded fine for the rest of the game. Again, sorry if that's loud, but I decided to increase all of those by 3. Just as a way of hopefully making that better. And again, whoa, we're not doing sorceries this run. That's gonna be its own run. Unless we do things differently here in Dark Souls 3. I mean, either way, it'll be its own run. Because it won't be part of this, but it may be with a different weapon class. It may be completely on its own. Just depending on how I decide to do things. Either way, you may notice I'm not parrying yet. And that's because I did a little tiny practice run. I got like halfway through Lothric Castle, and the entire point of it was to figure out parrying. And with that, I bring good news and bad news. The good news is I figured out why I could never parry in Dark Souls 3. You see, in Dark Souls 1, when you parry, that entire animation lets you parry. In Dark Souls 3, it's only the second half, when the buckler goes up. And I tend to do parrying based on reaction, where I try to do it last second, and as you can see, that does not work. You need to do it slightly preemptively, like that. So good news, I have figured out how to parry in Dark Souls 3. For some reason it's different than in Dark Souls 1, which really threw me off. But bad news, I am still not good at it. Again, how I record these and how I upload them is not the same, because as of recording, I've done Dark Souls 1 with every single weapon class. So I'm completely done with that. Whereas for uploading, I'm recording this as I'm uploading the 6th run with curved greatswords. But by the time we get to the end of Dark Souls 1, I've gotten very good at parrying, actually. Besides, like, maybe Gwyn, I'm just okay at parrying him. But still good enough to where I can take him out first try pretty much every time. But here, the parrying is still a lot harder, especially because you don't have the full animation. You only have that second part. Meaning, I still have a lot of practice to go, because I have a lot more practice with Dark Souls 1 parrying. But even with practice, parrying in Dark Souls 3 is still a lot harder. So it can be done. I can do it. It is within my skill set now. At least for Udex, Gundyr, and some of the basic enemies, but there's also a lot of misses. Usually because either I parry too early or I'm too far away. Which is something I've noticed a lot, is I tend to be too far away, and I don't know how close you have to be, but that's something I'm definitely going to have to get a lot better at, is just being close to the thing I'm trying to kill. But for the weapon itself, that shouldn't be too much of a problem, because these weapons are long. I was actually kind of surprised by how much range the piercing swords have. I mean, they're called thrusting swords, but oh well. Pierce, thrust. What's the difference, honestly? I'm just so used to calling them piercing swords now because of Dark Souls 1. But we will prevail. That attack, I got pretty decent at parrying. Though, shield is on our back now, so couldn't parry it there. And not gonna deal with the Master Swordsman, at least not yet. But we are gonna run around, we're gonna pick some items up. And something that I've noticed, because I'm not going to be doing any recordings for it just yet, but I have been playing a lot of Elden Ring recently. Just because I want to figure out how each game is different. And what are the goods and the bads and the in-betweens of every game. And something I've noticed is that Dark Souls 1 doesn't really have skills like this. But Dark Souls 3 does. I don't know if Dark Souls 2 does, because I haven't started recording those yet. But if Dark Souls 2 doesn't, which I'm going to assume they don't, then Dark Souls 3 introduces skills. But you don't see any of the names for the skills. You can, once you go here, in the description, but it's like here, I just tried to one-hand using Elden Ring controls, oh my god. But, like here, you don't know if you're going to parry or use this. Whereas in Elden Ring, it does show you that. And so that's one of the neat little things about Elden Ring. Anyways, let's talk to some people.
Welcome to the bonfire, unkindled one. I am a firekeeper. I tend to the flame, and tend to thee. The lords have left their thrones, and must be delivered to them. To this end I am at thy side. Ashen One, to be unkindled is to be a vessel for souls. Sovereignless souls will become thy strength. I will show thee how. Ashen One, bring me souls plucked from their vessels. Farewell, Ashen One. May the flames guide thee.
Ah, another one roused from the sleep of death. Well, you're not alone. We unkindled are worthless. Can't even die right. Gives me conniptions. And they'd have us seek the lords of Cinder and return them to their moulding thrones. But we're talking true legends, with the metal to link the fire. We're not fit to lick their boots. Don't you think?
Something else I've noticed between Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring is when you talk to NPCs, in Dark Souls 3 you can still attack,
What a sick joke.
as you can see.
Asking us to seek the Lords of Sittle.
And that's why I put my weapon away. Because I tend to put my controller down, because I'm playing with a controller on PC. But I tend to put the controller down when talking to NPCs, and sometimes that means I end up hitting them. Whereas in Elden Ring, when you talk to an NPC, it just cuts that off. You don't get to attack when talking, which is a very nice quality of life thing. And I like that a lot.
A pleasure to make thine acquaintance, Ashen One. I am but a humble handmaid of the shrine. Weapons, armor, trinkets, and spells. I've lots of little things to ease the burden of a weary traveler. And yes, I'm undead too, but not so charitable as to give my goods away. Ashen One, fetch souls and bring them to me. As is thy wont, no? Ashen One, if my wares are not to thy satisfaction, bring me umbral ash. With ash, I'll fashion new wares. Is it not our sorry fate to sup on death? Knowest thou of that soppy gossip? That cordial intrusion layeth the path to embers? And so thou art in need of a soapstone, Ashen One. Then thy pockets will overflow with souls to trade to me.
I'm not going to spend this entire run comparing Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, or Dark Souls 3 to any of the other games, really, but just want to point out a few things here and there. And one of those little differences between here and Dark Souls 1 is in Dark Souls 3 you can actually sell the magic you don't want, whereas Dark Souls 1 doesn't let you do that. I don't think Elden Ring lets you do it either. Maybe it does. I remember distinctly that it doesn't allow you to sell spirit ashes, which bothered me a bit. Now, sell all this stuff because one of my rules...
Ashen One, be sure to bring more souls.
one of my rules for these is not only do I have to use a different weapon class each run, but I have to use a different shield and armor set each run. And I'm not allowed to use the same shield or armor set twice. So, anything that I'm not using this run gets sold, just so I can have some more souls.
Well, a newcomer, I see. I am Andre. I serve at this shrine as a humble smith, forging weapons. You're in search of the Lords of Cinder, I trust. A toilsome journey, I'd wager. You'll require good arms. Let me smith you weapons. I am a smith, such is my purpose. Weapons and protection are sturdy enough by and large, but when overused, they'll eventually break. When their durability is low, repair becomes a necessity. Use a powder, or simply rest at a bonfire. But should chance impel them break, bring them me. I'll hammer them back into shape. They take no pleasure in breaking, I assure ye. So handle them with care, if you would.
That's something else that you notice between the games is Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne. You have to go and, like, you have to go out of your way to spend currency to repair them. Whereas Elden Ring doesn't have durability at all. And Dark Souls 3, and I haven't played it, but I'm going to assume Dark Souls 2, you can simply sit at a bonfire to repair them. But you have to bring them to a blacksmith if they fully break. Again, haven't played Dark Souls 2, but I'm just assuming that because of what I've heard about Dark Souls 2.
There are two ways to smith weapons. Simple reinforcement is one, and infusion the other. Reinforcement is straightforward. It strengthens a weapon without altering its property. Infusion is a more advanced form of smithing that infuses an element. Reinforcement requires titanite, and infusion requires gems. Bring the stones, and I'll do the smithing. It's my purpose, after all. In battle, your weapons are your only friends. Forge them well, and they won't let you down.
Alright. So, can't upgrade yet. I can't do that yet, but we can get an extra Estus.
Prithee, be careful. I don't want to see my work squandered.
Because not using magic, not big on skills, at least in Dark Souls 3, so no real need to have the Ashen Estus Flask. And thrusting swords are another weapon class that I have very, very little experience with. Probably bottom 3 in terms of experience. And from what I've seen from them, they aren't super good. At least not against shields. And there are a few enemies in this game with shields. Like great shields, so we may run into some problems.
All that unkindled, and a seeker of lords. I am Ludleth of Corland. Look not in bewilderment as I say. I linked the fire long ago, becoming the Lord of Cinder. If substantiation be thy want, set thine eyes upon my charred corse. This sad cadaver, no need to be coy. Have a closer look. Knowest thou of our purpose? 5 thrones will take 5 lords as kindling for the linking of the fire. The fast-fading flame must be licked to preserve this world. A reenactment of the first linking of the fire. So it is, I became a Lord of Cinder. I may be but small, but I will die a Colossus. Now, do not be away over long.
So, he has no legs. And where his legs were, there's blood. Now, there are 3 previous Lords of Cinder. They all ran away. And there's one that was supposed to be a Lord of Cinder, but refuses to do it. He's the only one who stays, and he has no legs and blood where his legs should be. So I don't know, because I'm not someone who follows super closely on the lore, but I don't know if he's staying here by choice, or if the other 3 left and then someone like chopped his legs off to force him to stay. And I'm kind of curious about that.
Ashen, produce the coiled sword at the bonfire.
I did.
The mark of ash will guide thee to the land of the lords. To Lothric, where the homes of the lords converge. Very well, then touch the darkness within me. Take nourishment from these sovereignless souls.
So,
Let these souls withdrawn from their vessels.
I'm just going to dump a few levels into health.
Farewell, Ashen One. May the flames guide thee.
Because, again, I feel like we're going to have a bit of trouble. Especially with the Spear Lothric Knights. Since they are absolutely addicted to just hiding behind their shields and shield bashing. Like, I've had fights against the Spear Lothric Knights where they've used their shield to hit me more than their spear. Which is a little strange. Just to think that, like, they have this weapon, but they don't use their weapon, and instead use their shield as their weapon. I don't know, it just seems a little off to me. But against certain weapon classes, like greatswords, it is very easy to exploit. And against certain weapon classes, like thrusting swords, it is very yikes. And here you can see, I do not have much experience parrying in Dark Souls 3, and it hurts. Though we're not going to be here for long, because I mostly came over here to get the longbow and see if these guys are willing to drop me a Titanite shard. Because it's kind of rare, but they do have a chance of dropping a Titanite shard. And it's always very nice when they do that. And, alright, he's way down there. I was kind of hoping he'd be up here with us. That's fine. Can we parry you? I don't know. I really don't know if... Whoa. Why'd we lock off there? Alright. So yeah, like I said, not very experienced with parrying in this game. And so it's going to take a bit. And I know that we were embered and we lost that, but I could not care less. Because you really don't need to be embered in this game. It really doesn't do much. Like, it gives you a bit more health, and it lets you summon, which, the more health pretty much automatically means it's better than being in human form in Dark Souls 1 because that just gives you the human look, but it doesn't give you any health. So man, did you hear that? I went and nothing. And that's something I've noticed a lot. And it's something I've especially noticed doesn't happen in Bloodborne. At least not nearly as often. And what that is I bully my dodge button whenever I get attacked. So it's like if I get hit, I just machine gun my dodge button. And something I've noticed is in Bloodborne, it works. I machine gun my dodge button and I dodge. But in all the other games, back up. In case you don't know what happened there, over there when I died last, I was mashing my dodge button like this, and my character did not dodge. This time, I didn't press dodge at all. I pressed parry, and my character dodged. What? Alright, so I don't... Oh, we can. Okay. I was just getting the timings off. Good to know. That takes all of our stamina. So... yeah, that's... I mean, the thing of, like, I pressed a dodge, and I was spamming dodge and never dodged. Like I said, that's something that I noticed happens in pretty much all the games except for Bloodborne. But the thing of parrying... that's why I don't tend to parry in Dark Souls 3. Because it is infinitely harder than in some of the other games. Like, parrying in Dark Souls 1 is very easy. Parrying in Bloodborne, pretty easy. I don't know about Dark Souls 2, because I haven't played it. But parrying in Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, very, very difficult. And the punishment for failing to parry, like failing to get the correct time, is infinitely higher. So it's like the timing that you have is much, much shorter, and the price for failing to meet that timing is so, so, so much higher. And as we continue on in the Dark Souls 1 runs, you'll notice that I get more and more and more into parrying because of how easy it is. And as of right now, I've only recorded 2 Bloodborne runs. But as I continue recording and uploading those, you'll see that I do a lot of parrying in Bloodborne. At least against the bigger enemies, because again, it's pretty easy. And even when you miss a parry, the guns can still stun the enemies. And so it doesn't tend to be like the price for failing the parry is usually pretty low. But in Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring, and I would say Dark Souls 3 more than any other, weirdly discourages parrying. Because it's just so much harder. And there's a very high price for failing to meet that higher bar. And so, not impossible. I've learned to hit it a few times. But Dark Souls 3 isn't a game I think I'm ever going to do a lot of parrying in. Because why would you go with the very high risk, honestly kind of middling reward of parrying, when you could just two-hand and just R1 spam? It works just as well, if not better, and is infinitely easier to actually execute. Like, the only time I can see parrying being useful would be against enemies that have a spear and a shield, especially a great shield, and they just turtle up. Or against enemies with a lot of health. Yeah, we're just gonna run by all that. And we're just gonna breathe fire. There you go. Yeah, we're just gonna let them take care of that. We're good. We're good. That is a mimic. We can deal with that some other time. But here, the Lothric Knight. Yeah, like I said, Lothric Knight is where I really noticed the flaw with how I parry. Of relying on reaction time and hitting the parry last second, which works wonderfully in Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne. It does not work in Dark Souls 3. Because, again, in Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne, it's instant, whereas Dark Souls 3, you need to wait for your character to put the shield above their head and then start moving up for it to work. So, parrying last second in Dark Souls 3 is much more of a detriment than a help. But here, Titanite Shard, Bonfire, there's the dragon, and we can get rid of that, and we can travel back to Firelink Shrine. Now with the dragon, you can't really hit it with melee weapons, but you can shoot it with a bow. And while you only get 12 arrows to start out with, as you can see, 528, just like that. Here, 495 arrows. Or 495 souls, and you get 99 arrows. And so I'm gonna do that to take the dragon out.
Ashen one. Bish.
Alright.
Ah, 'tis good, wasn't he?
And 10 base, 2 additional. We can do that.
Prithee, be careful.
Now later on, in High Wall of Lothric, there's another thrusting sword,
Ah,
but I don't think it's one I like as much. And I'm someone who tends to just sell almost everything. I don't sell everything. For example, like fire bombs, those are good against the pus of man. And so if something is useful in certain specific scenarios, I'll keep it. But a lot of like weapon buffs, like the different pine resins, I get rid of those.
ashen one. Huh?
Because I would rather not.
Welcome, Husby. Very well, then take note.
Right, so
Let these souls withdrawn from their vessels,
oof.
manifestations of disparity.
We are so close to a level. That is tragic.
Farewell, Admin.
That is tragic. So this would be 100, that's 200. You know what? We can sell a number.
Ashen one. Huh?
We can sell a number. That's
Very
fine.
well, then take.
There we go.
Let these
Oh, we only needed
from their vessels,
like 100. Okay.
manifestations
Oh, that's fine though.
disparity, elucidated by
So strength gives us nothing. Dexterity gives us 1 damage each.
darkness beyond the reach of flame.
I'd rather have health,
Let them assume.
so we'll do that first.
Farewell, Ashen One.
So, health, endurance. We're probably gonna have to put a few points into vitality, but not much because very light weapon class, very light shields, very light armor. I don't think I picked out my second armor set, or if I even will have a second armor set, or a second shield on this run. I don't know yet. That's something I'm gonna have to figure out after this part. But as of right now, very light. So we're not gonna have to worry about vitality much. But health, endurance, and then dexterity. But as of right now, if we're only getting 1 damage per point, we really don't need that. Like, we're gonna be fine without that. It would be better for us to have health and stamina. Especially since a missed parry meant all of our stamina gone. Now, I'm not going to use the bow to shoot the dragon just yet. That takes a few minutes. So that's something I'm probably going to do after we end part 1. Before we start part 2. Or something I might do when we come back later. If we come back later, that is. You never know, but yeah, there's a guy off to the side. And a guy straight forward. If you move up to the top of the stairs, but don't move forward after that, then the guy climbs up the ladder, but the guy on the side doesn't move. Like I said, the time that you have, or like the timing for getting the parry, so much smaller in Dark Souls 3. Something you may notice in some of my later runs for Dark Souls 1 is there are some parries that I should absolutely miss, but I hit anyways, because Dark Souls 1 was very forgiving with the parries. Excuse me. No. No, 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 no. But like I said, Dark Souls 1, very, very forgiving with the parries. Bloodborne can be forgiving at points, and it is very no chill at other points. But Dark Souls 3 is all around no chill. It is very demanding. And overall, I would say that when it comes to parrying, I think that Dark Souls 1 is a bit too forgiving. I would say that Dark Souls 3 is a bit too demanding. Bloodborne gets it pretty well. There's one point pretty early on where I'm pretty sure it's trying to teach parrying Titanite Shard, but it's like wildly forgiving, like way too much. And I think it's way too forgiving, again, because it's trying to teach parrying. But 2 shield bashes back to back. But anyways, outside of that one enemy, they're called like Church Guardians or something. But outside of them, which are way too forgiving, Bloodborne's pretty good with the parrying. And I feel like out of all the games, not counting Sekiro because I don't consider that to be a Soulsborne game, there's the shield bash. Ow! Again, outside of Sekiro, I think question mark? That should not have hit me, straight up. Like I said, for certain weapon classes, like thrusting swords, great shields are basically just a, yeah, you don't get to exist anymore. Anyways, when it comes to parrying, like I said, Dark Souls 1, too forgiving, Dark Souls 3, too demanding. Bloodborne got it pretty spot on. I would say that Bloodborne could be a bit more demanding. Like, just a tiny bit more demanding. But out of all the games, I mean, maybe Dark Souls 2 did it better, because I haven't played it, so I don't know, but you good? I don't think the dog's doing okay. I don't think the dog's doing okay. It ate a chair and then walked away. Come here. Come here, look at me. There you go. There you go. Anyways. Something tells me that Dark Souls 2 probably didn't get it better than Bloodborne, considering how people talk about the game. And so, out of all the games, Bloodborne almost definitely did Parrying the best. And Titanite Shard? It just kind of sucks that Dark Souls 1 was as forgiving as it was, and that Dark Souls 3 is as demanding as it is. Because it kind of kills variety. Estus Shard on both ends. Like, look at this. Think of how I could lose like 3-4 Estus trying to parry a single enemy. And then Selkie. And then I can come into here with 3 of those enemies and just... And I didn't get... Not only did I not lose an Estus, I didn't even get hit once. Like I said, you could say that that's a bit skewed because I don't have a ton of practice in Dark Souls 3 parrying. But I do have a ton of practice in Dark Souls 1 parrying. I do have a ton of practice in Bloodborne parrying. I have a decent bit of practice in Elden Ring parrying, which I would say is pretty similar to Dark Souls 3. So it's just like, in Dark Souls 3, why would you parry when two-handing is so much easier and has, like, there's so much less risk, but the reward is just as high, if not higher, and it requires significantly less skill. Like, there's no reason to parry when you can just do this. And so, it kind of just kills variety. And it's pretty similar with Dark Souls 1, of like, why would you try to two-hand when you could just parry everything when it's so easy and does so much damage? Again, it just kind of kills variety. Mailbreaker, which in Dark Souls 1 was a piercing sword, which I was not expecting. But yeah, there's that little tangent. Parrying in Dark Souls 1 should be harder. Parrying in Dark Souls 3 should be easier. Parrying in Bloodborne, they got it right. We're gonna talk to Grey Rat, and then we can end this part, because we started out, we got our weapon, we got our shield, we got our armor set. We went through most of the first area. We got an upgrade for our weapon. We got an Estus shard, so we can go from the initial 3 up to 5 Estus flasks. and we get a friendly NPC. So we can talk to him, and then we can end it.
Ah. You're no jailer, are you? No, you're from far away. And judging by the bell, you must be some of that unkindled ash. Remarkable. If that's true, then I have a favor to ask. Below the high wall is a musty little town. Not the home of any lord, just a very old settlement of undead. An old woman, Loretta, lives there. Please, give her this ring. I'm not asking for charity. In fact, if you do this for me, I'll be sure to repay you in kind. I may be a petty thief, but I've more wits than most royalty. What do you say then, huh? Very well. I humbly place my faith in you. I am Grey Rat of the Undead Settlement, and I promise to assist you. Give this ring to old Loretta at the base of the high wall. Do your part, and I'll do mine.